Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my craft room. My name's Julianne Richards, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in southern Tasmania. This is the first video in my March 2022 product class, and the product we're featuring this time is the Blessings of Home stamp set that comes part of the comes together with the Flowers of Home stamp set in a nice bundle. So if you've purchased the bundle or just the stamp set, this is how you pop your cards together. As I did say, with this stamp set, you can quite easily use other stamp sets or bundles that have a large focal point of a large floral focal point, like the I think the Simply Succulents would be nice, or the hand penned, but I'm going to be showing you how to make this with the Blessings of Home, and I'm sure you can adapt that to whatever stamp set you decide to use. Anyway, so we're going to start with this one. This is card number 1. It's actually a pocket card, so it has the little pocket that comes out there, the little slider that comes out there as part of that. Got some sunlight coming up there. It's not quite there yet. We'll see if we have to move between videos, see if we can avoid it. But anyway, so this is probably the most complex of the cards that I've organised for this class. So we'll walk through this together. I did do a similar card in different colours very recently in a previous video. So if you'd like to get another description of this one, please pop back through the videos and see if you can find it. So the big thing with this one is this main image in the beginning there, and it's actually coloured with our inks and our wonderful Wink of Stella. So I'm going to show you how to do that as well. But anyway, let's pop this one together. Before that light beam comes up, it's actually shining on my belly at the moment, so it's not actually on the work surface, thankfully. Okay, the original card, as you can tell, is our wonderful Misty Moonlight, but since that's actually retiring, I'm not replenishing my stocks, and I have literally used my last scrap. So your card I'll be showing you today isn't in Misty Moonlight. It's actually in Cinnamon Cider, which is another one of our retiring colours. So I've cut all the things that are in Misty Moonlight in your set will be in Cinnamon Cider in this one. Another reason I swapped out was because with these cute little paper doilies, I'd actually given away all the Cinnamon Cider ones, and I only had Misty Moonlight ones left. So I thought I couldn't put a Misty Moonlight on a Misty Moonlight card, even if I did have some, so I've swapped it around to get a little bit of contrast there. Okay, so we'll just pop all that aside for a wee bit. The colours I'm using on the flowers are Misty Moonlight, it has to get a Guernsey in there somewhere, Polished Pink, Garden Green, and Cinnamon Cider. But any combination, any pink or any green, you'd be fine with those, although probably the Cinnamon Cider and the Misty Moonlights would be a minimum. Okay, so as I mentioned with this image here, it's basically coloured with ink and your Wink of Stella. So what I'll do is I've got a little small one here, the little image that actually goes on the inside, that little one there. I'm going to have to do something about that sunbeam, aren't I? It's coming in there. Anyway, yeah, so I'm going to do this little one here just rather than going through the big one, but the principles and the colours are exactly the same. So we'll go through that one, and then you can do this one in your own time, just to stop this video from having to be about 6 weeks long. Okay, so if you bought the stamp set, you will have a couple of little blanks like this, blank die cuts, which is where your image is going to go. If you've got the bundle at home and you've just bought the kit, you'll just have some extra pieces of basic white cardstock, so you can stamp and die cut your own images, which is much easier, I think. So as I say, we're going to be doing this little one here, which is this one. So I'll show you how to, if you've got the blanks, I'll show you the easiest way I find to actually ink them up. It can be a bit tricky trying to bring, I'll show you in a tick, it's a bit tricky trying to bring the stamp set over the top of the blank because you can't see through it. It's not a clear stamp set, unfortunately, or fortunately. It's a bit hard to bring it over and line it up satisfactorily. So what I do is I pop it on a big block like that with the ink side up, ink it up nice and juicy. Then I flip my die cut over so you can tell that the nice side, the nice rounded side is down. You bring your head, you're going to have to bring your head over the top to get the alignment right. So I'm bring myself down a wee bit so hopefully you can still see. You line up the actual images on the stamp set with the edges of the die. They sort of line up fairly well. Just gently drop it down or place it down, and then very gently just smooth it over with your fingers. Okay, so you've dropped it in place or placed it in place. Smooth it over with your fingers to make sure you smooth all those little areas. And then when you flip it over, it should be pretty good. So it's actually quite an accurate way of doing it. The only thing you really need to be worried about is if you bounce it. So you put it down and bounce it, you might get a double bounce. If you've got it's just a spare piece of cardstock at home, it might be worth having a couple of practices before you actually bring in the die cut blank. Or, as I say, if you have real problems, it's not a huge deal fussy cutting this particular images, either of them. That nice clean lines and just a nice sharp pair of scissors, you can fussy cut it quite easily. Okay, so let's get to colouring this one. So once you've stamped it and die cut it, or stamped it, I'm going to bring in our inks and our Wink of Stella. So for large areas of this image, I suggest you get a clean, she says, because it's not clean, just a little block, just a stamp block, just a silicone block, whatever you use to put your stamps on, and just pop it into the ink. So this is for the larger areas of the design. Just pop it into your ink like that so you get some coverage. You sort of use that as a bit of a palette for the Wink of Stella. So then bring in your Wink of Stella, fill it up with some ink, and then you can start colouring the flowers. It's going to be obviously quite dark the first time you ink it up, and gradually as you use the ink it will get paler. So I suggest you go over, while it's still full of ink, go over the darker parts of your flower. And as the thing with stamping up images, they'll show you where the dark parts are because they actually have little shadows in the image itself. So while you've got a lot of ink on your Wink of Stella, just go through those darker parts. Then as the ink starts to fade off, then that's when you can do the lighter areas. So you sort of do all the dark first and then come back as the ink has disappeared and you do the blending. So you can see now that what's coming off my Wink of Stella now is much lighter, and it does the little light parts of the flower. So I'll bring that a little bit closer so you can see. So we've done all the dark bits, and now I'm coming back around with what's left on the Wink of Stella and just doing the lighter bits. Now, of course, it'll get to the point where there's nothing on your Wink of Stella anymore. So what then you have to do is go back onto your little ink block and just dab off the dark parts until you get it back to the lighter shade that you want. So obviously it won't last forever. There, so back onto the ink blot just a bit and then dab it off onto your surface, onto your grid paper until you get it back to a lighter shade. There we are. So that's that little flower there with the misty moonlight. Then just clean it off completely. Get yourself a wipe off your ink block. You will get a little bit inky, I'll warn you now. Just wipe it off, get it off your Wink of Stella a wee bit. And then we can bring in another colour. So let's bring in the cinnamon cider. Now, if you're only doing sort of a small image or a part image of this, don't bother with the ink block part. You don't necessarily have to. Just grab a little corner of grab your Wink of Stella, tiny corner of your ink pad, and then you can just do exactly the same thing. The dark bits first while it's full of ink, and then come in once it starts to fade off and do the lighter parts. There you are again with that cinnamon cider. Then I'm going to do the flat little tiny, oh dear, cinnamon cider everywhere. Trying to close my ink pad the wrong way. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use the polished pink, just get the colour off my Wink of Stella. And this is the polished pink. I've used just one little corner of it to do the inking, because you do get a bit of transfer of your cinnamon cider, of your Wink of Stella, back to your ink pad. So if you're doing this often, just pick one little corner and sort of stick to that. You don't want sort of Wink of Stella everywhere on your ink pad. So it's just these little pink flowers, and I'll show you where the little pink flowers are on the front image. So there we are, just some little cute pink flowers there. And then the rest of the leaves, which is quite a large part of this particular image, so I'll bring back in my block, is the garden green. And I think the Wink of Stella is just the perfect paintbrush. It's fine. It's got a beautiful tip to it. And it just seems to flow so nicely. It's like obviously it's got its own sort of lubrication, which is nice. It stays moist, I suppose. Just these few little leaves. And the stem on this one. So the Wink of Stella is so nice and fine, you can actually, those stems would actually quite worry me. But with the fineness of the Wink of Stella tip, I'm not worried about them at all. I know that I'll be able to stay within the lines. She says, maybe talking too soon. Yeah, the proof's in the pudding here. Let's do this. Perfect. There we are. So that's our little image there. I'll bring it up a bit closer. Again, you can look at it. There we are. With my inky fingers. Okay, I'll clean off the Wink of Stella because I'm not using that anymore. Now, there's the little insides of the flowers. I haven't used the Wink of Stella on the insides of the flowers. I've actually just bought in some blends. So the inside of the big blue flower, I'm using the dark Daffodil Delight. And the inside of the cinnamon cider flowers, I'm using light, I think it is, light Cajun Craze. It's just a nice slight contrast. And that one there is finished. That's the inside one. Make sure that focus is okay. There you go. So that's the flower for the inside of the card. I've already done the outside one, and I'll show you the colours that we were talking about there. So we've got the big flowers in the Night of Navy. And again, as you can see, while the ink is well, there's a lot of ink on your Wink of Stella. You go and do the inside parts and then come back when the ink disappears a wee bit to do the lighter shading. We've got our flowers with our cinnamon cider here and here, and then just 3 tiny little, and you can't even see them probably, 3 little tiny pink ones over there in the corner of this one. A lot more of the pink on this image here, but just a tiny bit of ink on pink on that, and then our garden green leaves, as you've just seen. You can probably see, I don't know if you can see in the light in this room, because you've used the Wink of Stella, you get a lovely sheen to the image. So it's really, really special. I'm so glad I discovered somebody doing the colouring with the Wink of Stella. It's really, really nice. So yeah, go through a fair bit of Wink of Stella. I warn you, you probably need to keep one specially for this if this is what you decide to give a go. So we've got our 2 images for this card all done. We might as well bring in everything else and pop it together. Okay, so you have, and I will put all the measurements and all the products up on my website and put a link on the videos once they're up and ready. So don't worry too much about the measurements. You can probably just measure them off the card anyway. So you have a card base. So this, as I say, this is cinnamon cider, but yours will be Misty Moonlight. It's 8 1/4 wide and 5 1/2 long, or I suppose that way, the other way anyway, but 8 1/4 by 5 1/2. It's scored at 1/4 and then at 4 1/4. So the gap is 1/4 there, then there's a 4-inch gap there, and then a 4-inch gap to the end. So that folds over, and that's your little 1/4-inch tab there to put our adhesive on. So we might as well do that first. So, and you've got a tag, the end there is cut out with a tailored tag. Now, the most handy tag, I think, that I've ever found, which is retiring in the next catalogue. So if you've like this one, you've seen me use it and you like it, please grab it before the end of April, because then it will be no more, sadly. And it's actually on special at the moment as well. So yeah, it's probably worth, if you've been putting it off, probably do no more. Okay, so I'm going to use double-sided tape on my little tag. I'm going to make sure I put it on the right side of the little tag. So it's going to fold under. So I'm just going to pop some double-sided tape, hoping that I've visualised this right and that that's the right side for it, because that's going to fold under like that. Yes, it is. So that's our little tag there, and then that's going to stick to the underside of that there, if that makes sense. And I'm going to also put a line of double-sided tape along the very bottom edge as well. I'm not sure that this is overly necessary, but it just forms the pocket. I don't think the card would slip through completely even if you didn't have this bottom adhesive, but I don't want to take that chance. So I'll pop that there. Take the backing off this one. Could use glue, but I do find that if the glue sort of oozes to places that you don't want it, you can find yourself not being able to fit the pocket in successfully, because you want, it's measured pretty close so that it doesn't slip out or slip through. So there you've made yourself your little pocket there. Okay, so just pick which side you want front and which side you want back. I think I'll go that part there. So here you have a similar shape. This is also, yours will be Night of Navy, but mine's Cinnamon Cider. And this has been put through the Pretty Flowers embossing folder. And this is one that is continuing in the next catalogue. So you'll find that the piece of the embossed piece will fit pretty much, hopefully pretty much perfectly on the front of your little pocket. And the the tag that I've cut out of that one should line up with the tag that I've cut in the pocket itself, with a little gap around the edge. So that's just going to go glued just straight. Oh, that's not a new glue, that's a glue. I don't want to use that one. We can just grab a glue or a snail or whatever and glue that one on. And that glue is not going to work either. I had one here a minute ago that was working. Okay, let's do this one. This is the one from this morning. So just glue, adhesive, snail, whatever around there. and pop it onto the card. There we are. So that's your little pocket already there. Okay, so what we're going to do is, as well, we decorate it with our little doily, and you've got a contrast colour of a little circle as well. So your circle will be Misty Moonlight, sort of to contrast with your cinnamon cider doily. Mine's the other way around. So you've got, if you've bought the full kit with 6 cards, you'll have a full doily, and if you've bought a half kit, you'll have a half doily. So obviously each card, we're only going to use half a circle and half a doily. So if you've got the full set or the 6 cards, you want to cut both of these in half. I think what might be easier is if I'm trying to work this out myself. I haven't actually done it this way yet. I'm going to glue, if you've got the half and the half, just glue the half that you have got onto the half of the doily that you have got. So you've got half already. But I'm thinking if you've got the full one, you need to cut it in half so you can use half on each of your cards. So I'm going to glue it first and then bring in my little, what's this, guillotine, line it up. So it's a symmetrical doily, so you should be able to line it up with across 180 degrees across and get it exactly in half. And that's what you've got. So you want one of those for each of your cards, or half for each of your cards. So pop the other half away for when you do your other card. Okay, so that's going to pop onto now the reason I gave everyone only half of one of those is because it's hidden behind our image, and it was such a popular class, I didn't have enough to give everyone 2 full ones. But as I say, it fits behind the image anyway, so you don't see the other half. And it's obviously, it's a nice way of saving, giving the illusion that it's there with the saving of saving equipment, making your supplies go that little bit further. So it's just sitting behind that main image there like that. So we know where it's got to sit. So we'll take our main image away and we'll just glue that in place there. So as I say, have a bit of an experiment, work out where you want it, then bring it in and glue it in place. So I want it there. Just like that. So that's where I want it there. So have a bit of an experiment where you're going to have this one and then place your doily accordingly. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to actually now bring our beautiful image in. I'm going to pop it on dimensionals just to give it a little bit of height, and then put it in place where we experimented with before. Okay, just some dimensionals around there. And pop that onto our card front. Love that shimmer. Okay, so next thing we need to do is grab, you've got 2 in your kit, you've got for each card, you've got 2 little stitched rectangles. The smaller of the 2 is the one that's going to sit on the front of the card, just like this, with our sentiment on there. If you're not using well, you can choose whichever sentiment you like, of course, it's your class. I'm going to use the thank you from the stamp set, The Blessings of Home. I don't particularly want the "for inspiring me," which is the little extra writing underneath the thank you. So I like the thank you, but I'm not particularly wanting that "for inspiring me." So I'm going to grab my masking tape. And I'm just going to pop that temporarily over the "for inspiring me." Thankfully, it's a nice straight line, so I don't have to be too fancy with my masking tape, but it's just like that. I'm going to use the Misty Moonlight for my sentiment. Black would be fine. I'm going to use my Misty Moonlight, stamp it up with the masking tape in place, and then this is the bit that I always forget, then remove the masking tape. I always forget to remove it and wonder why I get horrible splodges. So you've just got the thank you inked up there, and then you can bring it in to stamp your sentiment. It's quite handy at the moment. I've got a group swap with thank you cards as the theme, so I might use this one in my group swap now that I've made it up. Here we go. So as I say, I wasn't particularly keen on the for inspiring. Oh, I splodged it with my finger. I'm going to have to turn it over and do it again. Don't want a splodgy one for my swap. It's all right, you guys can get to see it again. I'll just try and get the ink off my finger. Okay, so mask it up again. I don't usually edit these videos, but I suppose I could edit that bit out, but anyway, that's okay. You guys know that I make a boo-boo now and then. So we'll try again. Thank you for inspiring me. Or just thank you, part of it. There we are. It's actually straighter that time anyway. I'm happier with that. Now, no splodgy fingers. Get rid of that. And we'll bring that back in. So I'm going to pop this one onto the card base as well. Just there, so slightly overlapping the images and off onto the edge. So you're going to need dimensionals on the left-hand edge of this sentiment box, and then you can glue it to the image at the other end. Just a couple of dimensionals at this end just to support it, and then some glue where it's going to actually sit on the already raised image on that end. Just like that. Itchy nose now. Let me just check that that's straight. Yep. There we are. So that's a little handy hint for masking off the unwanted parts of your sentiments as well. Final bit, you've got some little white, either pearl or enamel dots. I'm going to use the white ones. I think you've all got white ones. It's either white pearls or white enamel dots. I just really like the white against the darker colours, especially against the Misty Moonlight that you've all got. But I think the white's quite cute. So I'm just pop those around wherever you like. So that is the front of this card done. So the good thing with the pocket card is we've still got to do our little insert, which is what we've got our other image for. So we'll do that. So that's the front done. Well done. Okay, so for the inside, you will have yours, as I say, will be Misty Moonlight, a strip of Misty Moonlight and a strip of this gorgeous paper. And I just love the contrast of the blue against the paper. So it's not quite as a contrast with the what's this one, with the cinnamon cider behind there, but just as nice. And you've got a hole punched at the end of your card. Yours will be a circular hole, which I found quite good, but my husband, I think, has stolen my hole punch, so he steals it for his swim club, he stamps their loyalty cards with it. So I couldn't find it this morning, so I had to use a die out of one of the die sets. But you've got a hole anyway at the end of your little tab, and when you glue it down, try and line the hole up. So the hole in the designer series paper, try and line it up with the hole in the cardstock. because we're going to be stringing our ribbon through there. So there, just pop those two together. So then we're going to bring in our other little sentiment box. So this is another stitched rectangle. Normally, obviously, I usually put my sentiment boxes this way, but this time it'll be a little bit different. We're going to pop it up this way. And there's a sentiment in the stamp set that really sort of lends itself to that sort of vertical stamping. You are a real blessing to everyone around you, and that sort of goes nicely with the thank you on the front. So, of course, if you decide not to use an easily vertical sentiment on the inside, by all means turn your sentiment box around so it faces the other direction. But I really like this. It's quite different, quite different, unusual for me anyway. You are a blessing to everyone around you. You are a real blessing to everyone around you even. Okay, so we're just going to glue that one onto the inside, little tab. Sort of just left of centre. And then we're going to bring in our little extra flower that we've coloured, and we're going to pop that on as well. So why I say left of centre is because you've got to, don't want to put it over your little hole, and you want to sneak it there between just overlapping the sentiment slightly. I would like it a slight lean, yeah, like that. There we are. So that's what I sort of want, what I'm going for. That's actually a little bit too far, not left of centre enough, but I'm going to have to live with that because it won't go. So as we did in the front, you might be best to have a bit of an experiment where you place that, because I should have probably done that before and actually had it a little bit more left than I did, but that's okay. Actually, the other one, I've got it like that. That might be nice, so more that way. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so we're just going to glue this as well. No dimensionals on the inside because it does have to slip in and out easily from our little pocket. Oh, yeah. We haven't even put any embellishments on the inside either. So that's as again, because it has to sort of slip in and out of our little envelope easily, so you don't want it getting caught. So there we are. So when I was looking at this one, I thought, hang on, that's very well and good and very lovely, but there's nowhere to write. So if you wanted to put a personal message, I'd just be putting a white panel on the back there so you can write your message on that, or even on the back of your pocket. It's entirely up to you. But or if you can sort of squeeze in, if you have a smaller sentiment, you might be able to squeeze your writing in on that little sentiment box on the inside there. Okay, so, one more thing, ribbon. The whole reason you've got the hole at the end of this one is to bring in your ribbon. So you've got a length of the denim ribbon, which is really lovely. And you just pop that through your hole, make a loop at the back, then loop the loop forward and pop the little tails through. And that is the ribbon. So pull it tight. Try and be as gentle as you can so you don't rip the cardstock as you're pulling. That would be horrible if you rip through. So just tug it as gently as you can without being too firm. And then just, if you've got a little bit too much there, just trim it down. I think I measured it out pretty accurately. And you'll have, if you bought the double kit, you'll obviously have enough for 2 cards there. Just trim that down. There we are. Okay, so that one is done. So that's your little pull tag, and that fits pretty much perfectly, if I've done my job properly. Fits into that little cut out little tag there that you've got, that little sort of cut out triangle, the little ribbon fits in there so you can pull it in and pull it out like that. And it should sort of fit snug in there and not come out if it's wobbled, but hopefully nobody's going to wobble it too much. But anyway, there you go. So that's card number 1. It's, as I say, that's probably the most complex of the cards we've got in this little set, and it's actually, I think, probably my favorite. But yeah, really like that, and really love the coloring with our Wink of Stella, which is really, really nice. Okay, so that's card number 1. Thanks for watching this one. I'll tidy up a bit and be back with card number 2 shortly.